The goal is to create an unlimited supply of organs so that people don't have to die waiting in line for an organ transplant. As a PBC company, public benefit corporation, our focus is for the betterment of people and our social impact on everyone.
Welcome to Biotech Bytes, where we chat with technology leaders within biotech and pharmaceutical about the current trends, things that are going on in the marketplace. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by the VP of Digital Innovation for United Therapeutics, Shola Oyewole. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Steve. Nice to meet you again. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to your guests, and thanks for the invitation.
Sure thing. Always great to talk to you. And I always learn something new every time we speak. So it's always fun. It's always great.
Thank you.
And yeah, sure. And as is customary in our conversations here on Biotech Bytes, we'll go through some technologies. But what I first like doing at the beginning of the conversation is just to give our folks, our audience, a quick little rundown kind of on Shola. What got you to where you are today, right? You're the VP of Digital Innovation for United Therapeutics. Good sized company, great company. And you've ascended to that through several avenues, right? And if you'd like to give us a couple minute sort of debrief on you and your background, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Steve. I have worked in the technology field for the past 37 years. So the last 25 years, I have worked at United Therapeutics. I was initially the first Chief Information Officer, my first 19 years at United Therapeutics. And for the last 6 years, my focus has been on emerging technologies. I have a new role, which is Vice President of Digital Innovation. And I know the word innovation is overused these days. So what I like to call it is, I look for emerging technologies that I can introduce into my company to help us develop drugs better and faster because our patients come first. So what I do today is just that. Yeah, meeting people like you and brokering relationships with thought leaders out there, with people in my company.
That's great. That's great. That's awesome. I love that. Thank you for that introduction. That's good stuff. Now, I just have to say, before we even start, right? Not a lot of companies think like, obviously, you ascended, right? From the CIO to the VP of Digital Innovation. Not a lot of companies think like that. So I think maybe I'll start with that, organizationally, right? I mean, they obviously saw a need and you saw a need, right? You created it with them and for them. Was it just something that organically came up, or was it something that you said to them, hey, I should really, probably move into something like this and help us get to that next level? How did that come about?
Well, as you know, in any IT career, there's going to be a point where you have built for the enterprise and it has gone on steady state. At which point you've got to ask yourself, what else can I do now that the company, in terms of infrastructure, is on steady state? We're a very, very innovative company. We have innovation coded in our DNA. And I felt this was an opportunity to open up a niche where I focus on technologies that United Therapeutics could leverage within our business. And, I proposed that to my manager, the president of United Therapeutics, and being an innovative person himself, he saw the need, he saw the desire, and I started a brand new Department of Innovative Technologies, otherwise known as Do It. And in fact, the initials of the department indicates what we do here. We look for ideas, and as much as possible, with internal venture funding that I have, we try to breathe those ideas into life.
That's awesome. It then, again, dovetailing into your organization, it's characteristic of your organization. And by that, I mean, I remember you and I one time when we spoke, we were talking about, and I'm about to mention something that I can connect a link to this. There was a piece in NPR that I had heard about, and you and I talked about having to do with the organ donation situation in our country and how it's less than perfect, right? But your organization, as you just mentioned, saw that they needed to try and make that better, be innovative, and think outside of the box and try and come up with a solution. As you mentioned early on, patients come first, right? So to really get to the point where you're trying to put a dent in the organ donation industry in this country in a positive way, right? And I think that what you're doing is dovetailing and is, a microcosm of that as well, right?
Well, so United Therapeutics is the first biotech public benefit corporation ever. And what that means is our focus is on the care of patients. And we're also very socially responsible in everything we do. All right. Now, with that said, the transplant industry today, as massive as it is quite difficult to actually get an organ to a patient. There are probably roughly 200,000 patients waiting for an organ, but because of the difficulty in managing such a very complex system, probably less than 2,000 of those patients actually get an organ. And that is not suitable for us because the drugs that we manufacture here are to help manage a disease called pulmonary hypertension. Okay, the true cure of pulmonary hypertension is a dual organ transplant. New lungs, new heart, because the disease occurs between those two organs, and over time, both organs, deteriorate with you. So a true, cure for the disease is that, dual organ transplant. And if you have 200,000 people waiting for an organ and only, less than 2,000 get them, what are the chances of helping a patient? And Martin Rothblatt, the CEO of United Therapeutics, came up with a vision to manufacture an unlimited amount of transplantable organs. And at United Therapeutics, that has been our focus. Okay. We use 3D printing, print lungs, and then we use other methodologies to grow or manufacture other organs like the kidney, the liver, and the heart. You may have heard of two gentlemen that have received hearts in the within the last year and the year past. They received organs from genetically modified pigs. So pigs that the genes have been edited such that they can create organs that are biocompatible with humans. Okay. So the goal is to create an unlimited supply of organs so that people don't have to die waiting in line for an organ transplant. As a PBC company, public benefit corporation, our focus is for the betterment of people and our social impact on everyone.
It gives me chills when we talk. I literally have chills when we talk. This is just, to me, so awesome that your organization and you guys have effectively taken this on and are being successful at it, right? With those transplants and such. And like I just mentioned a minute ago, I will connect to our final podcast. I'll connect the NPR piece that I had listened to, which does detail, like I said, the shortcomings of our current transplant system in the U.S. so that it shows the opportunity that you folks saw and how you're helping patients, just so folks understand that. So to circle back around to IT, to technology, to digital innovation, tell me about that. Tell me where you see things going right now. Is there anything in particular that you see coming or that has been going on within your organization from a technology perspective that you think is going to make a huge change for us, is already making a huge change for us? Anything you want to mention there?
You're familiar with the concept of digital twin?
Yes.
All right. So imagine a scenario where you can create a digital twin of a person, perhaps a sick person, right? That has a disease, okay? And then you have a digital representation of molecules. So think within a computer, all mathematically, you have a sick person represented mathematically. You have molecule also represented mathematically. Okay. And then you find which molecule can help solve for that disease. That's the future of drug development. Today's process of testing different compounds on different types of diseases is slow and arduous. But can you imagine accelerating all that discovery into a computer that can do this a million times faster than a human? I believe that is the future of drug development, where we leverage the power of computing to help us select the right molecules, the right compound that could target a disease. And this is going to usher in the era of personalized medicine, where you actually create a medicine for one person. It will be economically possible to do that. Today, in order to even sustain your business, you probably want to focus on creating a drug that can address a larger population of people, and that is what makes discovery expensive and very lengthy. For the future, where you can generate a drug inexpensively for a patient of one, that is around the corner, in my honest opinion.
That's going to be awesome because I like you just said, right now it's almost like the discovery of the drug process is for the greater good, right? It's going to work for most, not everybody. Sometimes it doesn't work for that small part of the population, but for the most part it will, right? That's why they go through their testing and the FDA and such. But now you're talking about one. That's it. It's working for Shola. It's working for Steve, that kind of thing. Now, does that bring about, and this is just me, having a discussion here and thinking about that, does that bring about a manufacturing sort of issue, right? Because if you're making one batch, is there technology? I don't know. I'm just thinking about this. And if you don't know the answer to that, that's fine too. I just thought I'd ask that. Does that bring about sort of an IT issue in manufacturing or any sort of issue in manufacturing that you can think of?
Well, since I'm not a pharmacist or even a scientist,
Okay.
it may not be able to solve every kind of disease, but there's certain diseases that are probably solvable, more easily than others. And I would say in those cases where it makes sense from a scale point of view, I believe you could have drug on delivery. Kind of depends on the component, depends on the disease. It could be you and I are taking the same medicine, but at different doses, right? So it might not cost more to make a drug for you or for me. The components are the same, the machinery are the same. It's already been approved. All you're doing is giving Shola, you know, dose A, B, C, D, D, E, F. It could be as simple as that, or it could be even more complex. We're reaching an era where, you could 3D print a pill, a tablet. People who have 3D tablet printers at home. They have the prescription filled. The pharmacy, sends a command to the printer that they have at home to help reconstitute, a pill or a liquid that the patient can take. Now, there'll be a lot of logistics behind it. How do you get the active ingredient to the printer, etc. But I would assume that there could be a way that ink cartridges could actually have the basic components of molecules, and your printer just builds them up and prints them out for you. I am oversimplifying things, but that is the future.
I like it. I think that's awesome. So then, given all these different changes that are happening, and I'd love to hear you on this one. Given all these changes that are happening, I mean, you were the CIO, steady state. Now you're doing the innovation stuff, and with all these different things we just talked about, what advice? Let's say I'm a young CIO. I'm coming to a biotech, right? And clearly I'm not a 30-year-old guy, right? But let's say I'm a 30-year-old guy or girl, and I'm coming into a head of IT role. Given everything you know today, everything you've learned along the way, and also the way you see the trajectory, because you see a very futuristic trajectory, which is awesome. That's why you're the head of digital innovation. I mean, right? So, what advice would you have for me? What would you say to me? Hey, Steve, these are some of the things that you got to think about. Are there Are there technologies? Are there ways to structure my team? Are there things I need to think about with my team? Are there ways I need to push my team? Whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
I think the one advice I'd give anyone interested in a role like this is you must have a genuine sense of curiosity. You got to be curious. You got to always ask the question, could this be different? Could my patients have a more comfortable quality of life? Um, you've always you've got to be curious, number one, and you've got to be a patient listener to understand the problem. And I am not naive to think technology solves all problems. Technology just enables to a point, right? I can't solve your problem. I'm not a problem solver. What I can do is try to understand your need, understand where you're experiencing friction, and then think through my network avenues that we can use to help you. Okay. Shola isn't going to come in a balloon and try to solve your problem by introducing some gizmo. No, I got to work with you, understand where your needs are, and then connect you to the right technology, the right person, the right idea. Case in point, I run open innovation contests at United Therapeutics every couple of years. It is only open to the employees. On average, there are roughly 1,300 employees today. On average, we get 60, 70 ideas each time we have a competition. Then I run a Shark Tank where the best 5 ideas are picked and the winning idea gets funding to develop a working prototype. Now, go through all those ideas. Those are ideas that have come from the employees, right? And any one of those ideas could be a great idea. So my job is to go through all those ideas, work with the employees to see which ones can actually be developed into a product, which ones can be activated, right? So again, these are scientists, these are employees, these are people that have skills that I don't have. I am not going to build it for them. My job is to create the conduit for them to realize their own ideas. And I'm happy to say we've done this several times. I run a mini venture where I can pay for some of these ideas to a point, and then if the company is interested in making a product out of it, then they take it from there. But all our, you know, inventors, our ideators are, recognized where possible, and we provide a status on the development of their ideas corporate wide. So again, you need a genuine sense of curiosity and interest in people.
And that's how you foster the curiosity with the experimentation and the, like you just mentioned there. That's awesome.
Correct. Spirit of experimentation is super important because you've got to be comfortable with failure. You've got to be comfortable with learning, iterating. Every time you hit, a dead end, there's got to be an exit somewhere. You got to keep trying. Can be discouraged. And that is a lot of what I do. Encouraging people to keep trying, building trust, building relationships, building network. That is very, very important.
We all have our own things that we think about, right? And we all have our own world, right, that we live in. And I'm listening to you talk. What you're saying could apply to so many different things. I'm even applying it mentally to what I do, right? I see there's pain. There's something going on in an organization. I search through my network. I propose the best solution I can. And if it doesn't work, we go on to the next candidate or another solution. Okay, that didn't work because it's the same. You could do this for a lot of different things. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's applicable to most things.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and one thing that I think you said in there, which I thought was great, was that these folks, lots of them have skills that I don't. That's the sign of a humble leader. That's, again, not scared to hire somebody better than them. That we're gonna, like you said, provide that conduit, provide that pull, that avenue that they can, their runway, right, that they can take off on.
Correct. Correct.
which is
Yeah,
awesome.
we work very closely together, combining our skills, to bring ideas to life.
Thus, the VP of Digital Innovation. There he is. I like it. That's great. So I guess my next question goes kind of into working for you and working with the group, right? I was like asking you, or I was like asking folks, why would one want to work with you and with your group? You started getting into that a bit, but it sounds like it's a pretty exciting place to be.
Well, United Therapeutics is a very, very exciting company to work in. I've been here for 24 years and 9 months, 10 months. Okay. It has been a great experience. The folks here are very committed. The culture here is fantastic. All emanates from Martin Rothbard, the CEO. So, with that said, the gene of curiosity, the gene of innovation and experimentation thrives in this company. And for that reason, people are willing to be very creative, thinking first about how do we serve our patients better? How do we build better relationships with our business partners? How do we impact, um, society in general? All these things are very important in things that we do and we say. And for that reason, it is very important that I am able to build these alliances with my colleagues to help coax them of ideas and help nurture and build those ideas into solutions. Now, not every idea will be successful. That's not the point, though. The point is, do we have that genuine sense of curiosity, that innovative spirit to even try? We're doing it for the benefit of our patients, our business partners, of society. And that's important. So you need that can do attitude. You need to be able to encourage it and build on it. Any work that I do is built on partnership with these ideators. And I treasure those partnerships. They're very important.
To hang on to that top talent well, I mean, if folks have autonomy and folks have the curiosity and the freedom to experiment and not fear of failure, like you said, that creates an awesome culture where folks, they're going to stick around. They're going to stick around for a long time. They're staying with you because, I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with folks where they say, at this one company, I had this kind of culture and I just don't know how to recreate it, right? It was the kind of culture where, we'd come in, we'd start working on something. Next thing we knew, it was 7 o'clock at night. That's because they were doing something they were engaged in and they were experimenting and they were creating something. And that's exactly what you're talking about, I think, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you need the right culture. You need the right culture to encourage people to want to give back, to want to do even better. And that's the culture we nurture here.
That's exactly what, again, I hear from people all the time. How do I get to that culture? How do I get back to this? I had it at XYZ company, at this small company. We were building something, we were making something. And in your group, you've created this micro ecosystem inside a larger company that's doing all that and around technology for the betterment of the company and for the patients, which I don't, I don't see why anybody wouldn't love that. So
Yeah,
that sounds great.
we adopt the company culture. This is how the culture is throughout the company. Yeah.
Okay.
So we reflect what's all done in the company. Yeah.
I want to circle back to technologies and specific technologies. I like the culture and I like about you and the company, and I can see why folks would want to work for you and your organization. Are there any specific, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, and I know you've kind of gotten away from specific technologies, right? Because you're like you say, creating that conduit. Is there anything that you, and there may not be, I just want to make sure I get it all, that you want to chat about from a technology perspective that you think we should hit on or talk about, or do you think it's more big picture and not about specific technologies?
I would probably say more big picture. The elephant in the room, generative AI. Everybody, AI has been with us for eons. All right. They just give it a brand new name. Now it is generative. I get it. I think there are many opportunities to leverage generative AI in most of what we do day to day. their AI agents, their chatbots, etc. However, we have to address that with some caution, right? Um, Large language models are composed of a lot of text, and I think it is still a mystery as to how they spew results to a prompt. So I use it with caution, all right? If I am not a subject matter expert on a topic, I'm going to look at a response to my prompt with some, you know, doubtfulness, which means I'm going to do some more studying, offline to be sure that this response is correct. And I think that should be the general attitude when you use generative AI, you know. Either you're an expert in the subject and you can tell, and if you're not an expert in the subject and you're prompting for it, then it would be wise to use third-party tools, third-party research to validate the response you just got. I see a lot of opportunities, particularly in what we call medical information, right? Where in general, pharmaceutical companies have lots of information, published papers, um, contraindications of different drugs. If all that can be visible, can be made available to, say, a medical LLM, it may make research much faster. If you're a doctor, you want to prescribe a certain drug, but you want to be sure about contraindications or compatibility with the different conditions the patient or other drugs the patient is taking. I think as a doctor, you could leverage a medical LLM to do a query. Say, hey, I have patient here with these kind of side effects, with taking these drugs, age, weight, gender, whatever, and you get a response. But because you're a medical doctor, you can validate that response, right? Does it sound right? Based on your training. Now, if this is totally new territory for you, then I would say back that up with extra research. Is this true? Let me validate it with my colleagues. Let me check third party websites or whatever, doctors do. But I think in terms of care, things like a medical LLM could be very, very helpful. You can also apply it in drug development. Does your company have arsenal of research material, regarding your drug development process? Well, could you throw all that into an LLM and tease out more information, tease out other therapies or other doses of your drug? You know, all that remains to be seen. I think you need proper data governance first, upon which you build your AI competency or center of excellence. So that's my view on generative AI. It is very, very promising, but should be used cautiously.
Yeah, I'm getting conversations with folks, and some folks are saying along the same lines that there's a lot more juice we can squeeze out of the EHR and EMR kind of data, really just look at what's happened with the patients from a therapeutic perspective and what the reactions have been and so on and so forth. And like you said, maybe go after something else. There may be something in there that we just don't know, as long as we can take that data and really make some sense of it. There's just so much data.
There's so much data. I think the challenge is data governance. What kind of data do I have? What kind of data? How is it segmented? How is it validated? All those things are very important in trying to build an AI, center of excellence.
So one last question I always like to ask folks before we go, right? I always like asking folks about the live music. I'm a big fan of live music, right? So I was like asking folks, what, if any, right? Had they seen any live acts that they really like or something they want to point out any point in the past, something that they really thought was great? And I'd like to throw that question to you and ask you, anybody you've seen, anybody you've, over the years, you like to share or mention to the audience? I ask this of everybody at the end of every conversation.
I can't say I've seen many large live event. Oh, well, I wouldn't call it event. I would say concerts, right? I've seen a few, probably a handful. But I remember watching Michael Jackson. He came into Washington, D.C. over 30 years ago, and his performance was outstanding. I mean, he was a showman. The attention to detail, and he pleased the crowd. He gave us the performance of what I consider of his life. I mean, it was very engaging. We stood up the entire time dancing. You could see the results of his work ethic, right? Brilliant performance, engaging. He gave you what you wanted,
Yeah, yeah.
and that just tells you the kind of person he was. You know.
He puts it out there. He put it all out there. From what I never saw him live, but that's what I hear. The only, and I may have mentioned this to you in the past. The only thing that I think of when I see Michael Jackson, or think of Michael Jackson now, is I recently saw the documentary of We Are the World, right? And he and Quincy Jones, right, and some others, but those two, and Lionel Richie, right, put that together, and it was awesome. Watching that and watching those guys put that together was just, I thought, phenomenal. And again, that's another, testament to leadership, right?
I encourage leaders to go watch that documentary. How do you get such a large group of stars who are in town for what, 2 days for an event?
For
You,
like a night, right?
for one night, you
Yeah,
you you convince them to come spend time in the studio for what, 6, 8 hours to
yeah,
hammer out one song. How do you get that amount of star power in one room?
right.
That to me, that's leadership, that's trust. I mean, a Michael Jackson, a Mick Jagger. I mean, look at the big names in there. You were able to convince them to come and dedicate some of their skills for a
Yeah.
worthy cause. That that to me is an example of fantastic leadership. Um, I encourage everyone to watch it.
My favorite part of that whole thing is, and I'm about to, spoiler alert with some folks that see this, I'm about to give away about 5 minutes of the video. But Bob Dylan standing in the room, they're trying to get Bob Dylan to do a solo because Bob Dylan's Bob Dylan. He's pretty big, right? He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it in front of those 40 folks or however many there were. They move everybody out of the room. Stevie Wonder pretends Stevie Wonder pretends to be Bob Dylan and shows Bob Dylan how to be Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan's like, oh, that's how I do it. So then he sang his part. So he's imitating Stevie Wonder, who was imitating him. And the other guys were standing there. Quincy Jones was standing there, I believe, and Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson. They were all standing there while Bob Dylan did it. And I was just blown away. I'm like, here's probably one of the biggest stars, out there with all these other huge stars. And it's just the whole thing, the way the whole thing came together. Again, like you said, in one night, and they keep showing the clock. These guys were down to, whatever. They were there for 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, it just kept going. It was
So
awesome.
that's an example of empathy, right? You
Yeah.
know, putting yourself in the shoes of the person that's struggling
Yeah.
and then helping them out. And I mean, what was Bob Dylan going to sing? He was going to sing what, for what, 5, 6, 7 seconds? All
Maybe.
that effort, right, was to help him belt out 7 or 8 seconds of song.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So empathy is very important as a leader. Put yourself
As a leader.
in the
Yeah.
shoes. Correct.
And it adds to that team that, everybody's got to pull each other along or otherwise the team
Yeah,
doesn't get there. Right.
that's correct.
So I'll include also on this, I'll include the link to that documentary as well.
Yeah, that way it's easily accessible. And yeah, that's a good idea, Steve.
So people can see that. So,
Yeah.
well, good. I mean, usually that's where I end. So I just, anything else you want to add before we call it a day? I really appreciate you taking the time with us, by the way.
Thank you for the opportunity. I cannot think of anything to
Okay.
cover again, but I look forward to engaging with you again and watch your other podcasts and learn from the other leaders you've been talking to. I think you're doing a great job. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've been told I got to take compliments better. I always, yeah, I'm never real good at that, So people tell me, hey, you got to say thank you. I'm always like, oh, I don't deserve a compliment. I'm just doing what I do. So thank you. That took a lot. That's a lot for me. So anyway,
You're welcome.